If you clicked on this video, your question is, how do I make money making hay? Well, I'm gonna try to make a quick and simple guide for you guys to get started making money making hay. I'm gonna tell you how I do it, how other farms do it, and how you can get started doing it as well. So these stacks of hay here behind me are considered commodities, just like corn, soybeans, wheat, etc. It's a commodity. Like all commodities, prices rise and fall, normally depending on the time of year, but even different years, they fluctuate quite a bit. So how do you as the farmer make money off of a commodity? Well, first things first is you got to have the means and the ability to make the hay. In order to have the ability, you got to have some sort of equipment or someone with equipment. You can either rent, borrow, trade labor, or just have them do it for you. You also have to have the land, whether that's land that you own or land that you rent. Both equipment and land and labor are all expenses that you have to take into account when making hay. So let's run through the different types of hay. You've got round bales, big square bales, and small square bales. Here on our farm, we choose to raise small square bales because locally they seem to bring a higher price. Cool thing about hay is the prices are more localized rather than like corn and soybeans, which is more dependent off of a national price. The Chicago board may post corn for $5.50 a bushel. Most of the nation is going to follow that, and there might be a cash price that's kind of higher or lower depending on your area. But with hay, the prices are a lot more localized. For example, this behind me is called alfalfa mix hay. It's got alfalfa and orchard grass in it. It's a pretty common mix hay for horses. Around here we got a lot of horses. This hay right here I have listed for $8 a bale. Locally, that's been the price for kind of a long time. Now, if you're someone in the area who has a great reputation for good hay, you may be able to sell it for more, and other people may sell it for less. But the hay price for this particular hay, third cutting mix hay, doesn't really change from year to year. For us locally, we have a lot of horses in the area with a lot of Amish and a lot of horse farms. So the small square bales of hay are a very, very popular choice. Good quality hay is always being sought after. So if you can make good quality hay in the local area, you can bring a pretty good penny for your product. Now, it's gonna be different for every area. If you go out to Kansas, your small square bale of mixed hay might not bring the best price, given that a lot of your hay is going to be big bales or round bales for feedlots. So before you go out and start buying or renting ground and buying equipment or renting equipment to start making hay, figure out what the best hay you should be making is. Figure out kind of what people are looking for in your area. Do you got horse people? Do you got cattle? Do you got sheep? What do you have in your area? What hay should you be making? What's going to sell the best? Figure that out before you start spending a bunch of money and trying to make your own hay. As you're figuring out what kind of hay you should be making, keep in mind, do you want to be making alfalfa, alfalfa mix hay, grass hay? Is that grass hay orchard grass? Is it Timothy? Is it a fescue mix? Keep that in mind as you're figuring out what kind of hay to make. It's going to be really important because different kinds of hay are going to be catered to different animals, different farms, and they have different expenses when making them. Now that you figured out the kind of hay you make, you figured out whether it's small, big, or square, and you figured out what specific hay species you're growing, you got to make it. You got to have the equipment, you got to have the ground. You can buy it, you can rent it, figure that out. Certain things are going to be more expensive. You could have exchange of labor. You could go to work for a farmer and say, hey, I will work for you. In exchange, I need to use your equipment to make my hay. You could rent equipment from someone if they give you that ability, or you can go and buy your own equipment. Oftentimes, it's going to be more expensive at a dealership, and oftentimes you can find really good deals at auctions. All right, we figured out what kind of hay to make. You've got the means and the ability to make it. You've made the hay. Now you got to sell it. What are you going to do? There's a couple ways you can go about this. First thing is auction. Depending on your area, you might have a lot of auctions, you might have no auctions. But hay auctions and also produce auctions often sell hay. But those auctions are going to be a good place for you to kind of get started, get a foothold, start to get to know people. When you take hay to auctions, get to know the people that you're selling to, get to know the other farmers that are selling there, network a little bit. You want to become known in the community. Before I started making hay, I worked for a handful of farmers, and I still work for a particular farmer. But my name was kind of known in the community because I had worked on farms, and I've been in the farming community for a little while before I even got into making hay. So when I started making hay, the word quickly spread, oh, Jake, he's making hay now. That brought in a little bit of business from some people around the area, but I still needed a lot more business to sell the amount of hay that I got. I got a big pile of straw back here. I got piles of hay over here. I got to move them, right? So let's go back to auctions. I started hauling my product, my hay and my straw, to auction. Hauling to auction opened up a whole new door of clients. All these people, I don't know who these buyers are. I've never met them, but I'm putting myself out there. I'm getting my name out there, and I'm getting my product out there to new people that I wouldn't necessarily reach just by existing. Now, don't be fooled again. Auction is not a surefire way to make a lot of money because oftentimes auction brings a cheaper price than it does retail. Auctions are more of a wholesaler's way of selling hay. Sell it in bulk you get it for a cheaper price. When you take these bales to auction, most of the time you sell by the ton instead of selling by the bale. That also reduces the price a little bit. This particular hay right here is second cutting mixed hay. It's not the best, even though it looks the best. It was baled a little bit on the wetter side. I would sell this bale retail for about $7 a bale. Even though it is the most sought after cutting in our area for horses, I would still sell it for only $7 a bale rather than like $8 or $9 a bale. If I take it to auction, I need at least $320, $330 a ton to get my $7 a bale. And $330, $340 a ton is a really nice price for auction. While auctions are a great way to network and an important revenue stream, it shouldn't be your only revenue stream. Selling retail is the best way for you to get the best dollar because you as the producer get to sell your product, your hay, for the price that you have it listed for. If you've got a good product, you can charge what you want. Now, keep in mind local prices. That obviously will help. If your local price for small bales is $7 a bale and you're trying to sell it for $15, you might not get that. But if your local price is $7 a bale and you've got a really good product, selling it for $8 or $9 might not be too far out of the question. That price right there, $8 or $9 a bale, is probably better than the $5 or $6 a bale you might get at auction. Keep in mind that auctions, you can get some really good prices. You can also get some very unpredictably low prices. Sometimes you don't even sell your hay. You're probably asking, Jake, how do I sell it retail if nobody knows that I exist and nobody knows that I make hay? Good question. This is when sometimes spending a little money to advertise might come into play. Out at the end of our driveway, we have 2 yard signs. You know, I don't know how much it costs to make yard signs, $10, $15, $20, $30, $100. I don't know. It ain't that much to make, one of those little step-in yard signs that you see for like school functions. So we have some little yard signs at the end of our driveway that says hay and straw for sale, and it has my phone number on it. That has brought in a little bit of business. I've been able to sell a few hundred bales retail for the price that I have set by just putting signs at the end of my driveway. Another form of advertisement has been business cards. We spent like $30 making 100 business cards with a logo and a phone number on there. We hand them out occasionally, and then it kind of starts a word of mouth chain, and people start calling you that way. There's also a lot of organic ways you can kind of advertise. You can start a Facebook. We have a Facebook for our farm. Instagram, I posted on my own personal Instagram, and I made an Instagram for our farm. I make these YouTube videos. I have a TikTok. There's a lot of different organic streams that you can bring in awareness to your product. There's obviously more expensive ways to advertise, whether you're paying for ads on Facebook or you're paying for ads on Google, or you even pay for an ad in the newspaper. You can do it that way. There's also local newspapers. You could put a classified ad in and sell hay that way. So with all of that being said, you have to keep in mind that building a buyer list or getting awareness for your retail business can take quite some time. And specifically in hay, I've talked to a handful of farmers at some farm shows and even local farmers. It takes a while to get that buyer list because in my area, there's a lot of guys that make hay and there's a lot of guys that make some really good hay. So you have to figure out how to stand out from the other farmers, and you got to figure out a way to bring in new clients. For us personally, we are catering more towards the small horse farmer. We're not catering to the big horse farms. We're not catering to beef farms or dairy farms. We're catering to the small horse farmer that just might need 25, 50 to 100 bales of hay or straw. That's our target audience. When you know your target audience, you can figure out a better way to advertise or spread the word, and you can even figure out the best and most efficient way to create your product. At the end of the day, making hay is still a risky business. It's still a farm. Farms have a lot of expenses, and there's a lot of farms that go bankrupt when they're not managed properly. So learning how to manage your finances the best and learning which practices are best for you is a really important step. So before you take a dive off into the deep end, figure out what kind of hay you're going to make, how you're going to make it. Are you going to rent equipment? Are you going to buy equipment? Are you going to use exchange of labor? Are you going to rent land? Are you going to buy land? Do you already have existing land? What specific kind of hay are you going to make? Are you going to make alfalfa or grass? How are you going to sell it? Are you going to sell it at an auction? Are you going to sell it locally? Are you going to sell it privately? Are you going to sell to a hay broker, right, and sell it that way? There's a lot of ways you can sell it, right? But really do your research. Hopefully this video helped you and gave you some tips and kind of an idea of what it's like getting into the hay business. This is my second year in the hay business, and I will say I'm still learning a lot. I'm still growing. I don't have a huge buyer list yet. I've got a couple buyers that, need hay every single month or need hay every couple months or twice a year. I've got a hay broker that I sell to. I take loads to auction. I'm working on all sorts of different revenue streams, figuring out how to move all this hay. Next year, I plan on making double the amount of hay that I did this year. So I have to figure out how to keep this hay moving and keep the income coming in. With this farm, there's a lot of expenses: fuel, labor, tractors, equipment, breakdowns, you name it. There's a lot going on. So understanding your finances, but also understanding how the markets work is really important. So like I said, hopefully this video helped you. If you enjoyed it and you found value in it, give it a like. If there's any questions you may have or another video you would like me to make more in depth or on a different topic, leave a comment down below. If you like this kind of content, you want to see more, subscribe, go back to our library, go and watch all of our videos I made from the last 2 years of making hay. There's some tip videos in there, some informational videos, and there's just some fun, entertaining content in there as well. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.